women have more physical, emotional, and chemical stress than ever before. And if you add this increasing load of stress to a woman going through the menopause process, it is causing women all over the world. I mean, I hear from them all the time about how they are struggling through menopause, and they don't know where they are in the journey. They don't know what's happening to them. Their hair is falling out. They're gaining weight. Their divorces left and right. They're can't sleep. Give us sort of a big picture view of what is happening physically and spiritually to women after 40.
Okay, what happens is that the ovulations kind of slow down. So you might skip some ovulations, and then you'll have other times where you have maybe two ovulations in a cycle, which is why twins are more common in women after 40, or at least they certainly were before all the assisted reproductive technologies.
Yeah.
And what that means is that you'll get big swings of estrogen and then some progesterone, but not enough. And progesterone is a calming, warming hormone.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're skipping ovulations and you have then all of the estrogen produced by the follicle, and then you don't have the luteal phase of the corpus luteum, then, which is the body where the egg comes out of, this little yellow cyst that produces progesterone. When you don't have that, and you have a lot of stress hormones, cortisol and epinephrine, which you can get by simply turning on the news for 2 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Then in the face of too much estrogen, not quite enough progesterone, and stress hormones, the estrogen is metabolized down a pathway to become what's called a catechol estrogen. In other words, your estrogen becomes an additional stress hormone,
Mm-hmm.
and then that gets funneled down the metabolic pathway to the androgens. And that's why you get the hair on your face and no hair on your head with the hair falling out. And at the same time, you get to this point where the body says, hey, you've been dieting to get into that little black dress for about the past 20 years. That's done. We're not doing that anymore. You've been getting away with eating too much sugar, like we're all doing right now during this. Yeah. And we're not going to let you get away with that anymore. And so what happens is I call it sort of the Bermuda Triangle. It's a perfect storm of too much sugar, insulin that is high, metabolic changes as a result of that, too much estrogen, not enough progesterone, and the spiritual call, really, to find your voice after a lifetime of not trusting your voice, of being told, like me, you call a spade a goddamn shovel, like stuff that I've always seen that needed to be said. So then the thyroid goes down. And so the very voices, okay, let me be very clear. Who are the voices we need to hear right now? It's midlife and beyond women who have not been bought. Who have not been bought by darkness. That's my big overarching term, okay? And we're the ones. In fact, somebody posted something about what countries were doing the best with this current thing, and every one of them, like New Zealand, was headed up by a woman president. So these are the voices that we need, like the grandmothers. But let me be clear. Being perimenopausal or just after menopause, you're becoming a queen. You're not a crone. A crone does not happen. I give it till maybe 80 or 90. All right.
I love it.
So, this is not the end of being attractive or any of that stuff, but you do find your voice. You need to find your voice. And if you don't find your voice, you're going to have all kinds of symptoms because the body's desperately trying, the soul is desperately trying to get you to find your voice. So if you know that, and also age 42, by the way, is the Uranus opposition. And it's also a time when the Kundalini energy begins to rise from the root chakra up. And that Kundalini energy, which has been seen as a snake, or, in the Sphinx, that was a big snake coming over the head on the original Sphinx until the Saracens shot it off in whatever century. But that's just Kundalini energy, the rise of your energy. But it gets stuck in the areas of the body where you have unfinished business, where you need to integrate and move up. So where does it get stuck? Second chakra, sex, money, power. Third chakra, self-esteem, personal power, sense of responsibility. And those are called granthis in the Hindu traditions, granthis. So you have to work through those because that kundalini coming up will make things worse until you pay attention. And I think that's what I want women to know. Your life is not falling apart. The parts that need to be upgraded are just coming up to be seen, which frankly, I think is happening on the entire planet right now.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So I've been saying I'm 50 now, and when I hit about 42, so I'm listening to you say that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I started not sleeping. I started having like panic attacks that I never had before. I had depression. And so I went to all of my friends who were 5-10 years older than me. And I was like, what is this? And the general consensus in the world is like kind of that moment of like, they put their arm around you and they're like, okay, buck up. You're going through menopause. This is the beginning of it. And you got to suffer through it.
No.
And I felt like that what I knew about the human body, suffering was not an option for me.
Yeah.
So I really like this. I always say menopause was my mirror. It was like this mirror staring back at me saying, do this, do this, do this, do this.
That is exactly it. That's exactly it. And the more we resist, the more we will suffer. But if you don't resist, you don't suffer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the menopausal woman, 40, let's say the perimenopausal woman, 45, 47, walks into her OB's office and says, my hair is falling out, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, and she walks out with a medication.
Yeah, she gets some kind of SSRI, right?
Exactly.
She gets an antidepressant, which takes away her sex drive and makes her a little dopey.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do. You know, let's just keep them down. I mean, you know, way back, they used to remove women's ovaries if they got too mouthy. And by the way, the ovaries are related to the tonsils. The ovaries are related to, you know, this up here is like the ovaries of the throat. So, what, you know, if you look at the history of women's medicine, what have we done to try to keep that intuition down? You know, so SSRIs, removing the ovaries, any of those sorts of things. So what you need to do instead, you just need to take a look at what's really happening. So there's some very simple things. One, most women need a little more iodine in their diet because it ameliorates excess estrogen. And what is T3 and T4? That just refers to the molecules of iodine in thyroid hormone. So T3 has 3 and T4 has 4. And you just do a little bit of that and you'll find that very often your body and your thyroid just gets far better. That's in short supply, iodine, and also as magnesium is. So the anxiety is often from really needing more magnesium. Here's the deal. The symptoms are real. They're pointing to soul choices. The treatments are pretty simple. So magnesium, I always like the kind that Carolyn Dean came up with, Remag and Remite, which are picometers of the minerals. So they're very, very well absorbed. Then also a little natural progesterone often works very, very well, or an herb that I like so well, I started my own little business with it from Thailand, Pueraria mirifica, which has been called the miracle herb because it's very high in a certain phytoestrogen called myrosterol. Maca works for some women, and any of those things. And then the other thing is, all those lifestyle things you've always meant to do, but you just didn't have time. This is right. This is the time. You know, like the meditation. We have studies from Herb Benson down in Boston, the Mind Body Institute, that meditating 20 minutes twice a day decreases hot flashes by 90%.
Wow.
Now, I mean, most people look at me and they go, well, who has time for 20 minutes of meditation twice a day? At this particular time in history, many people do.
Yeah, right. Right now we have the time. Yeah, absolutely.